Good evening. It's 7 o'clock. We've managed to get in on time for once. It's amazing what happens when you take Connor out of the host chair, isn't it? You can all kick off at 7 o'clock. So there we go. Listen, lovely to have you all along. It is another Wednesday night fans forum. We've been keeping these going now religiously on a Wednesday night. So we are hoping there's going to be plenty of you coming through to have your say. We've spoken so much about management and all of that sort of stuff. I'm kind of hoping that we can get through today without mentioning two words. So we're going to see. I'm going to keep it like QI, and if those two words happen to be mentioned, then there'll be a big beep and a klaxon of some sort, and you'll all be expected to laugh at each other for being the person that came up with the two words that shouldn't be said today. So we'll see whether it happens or not. But we are looking today at what's different, what has changed from this season and last season, because it really is quite unbelievable. In fact, the first thing that Charlie said when she popped on backstage was how the stats are just absolutely unbelievable. There's such massive differences and comparisons to be made. So we're very much looking forward to hearing what young Charlie has got to give us from her stat pack. And of course, we've got young Sarah and young Helen there with us too. So listen, let's not mess about anymore. That's more than enough of an introduction. Let's kick off with Sarah. I'm going to completely blow everybody's mind by going the other way around immediately this time. What would you say would be the biggest difference from this season to last?
I think the confidence. And I don't know, we've said many times in past discussions that none of us know what goes on day to day in training, what kind of conversations are had, but there is a definite mindset shift this season. And I think everybody just seems, really closely bonded and just more confident. And, we've talked as well about the potential for unhappiness of being left on the bench and things like that. But I think overall, there seems to be a strong understanding of everybody's individual place in the squad, and the players seem to welcome the competition and just how it strengthens the performances on the pitch. So I think definitely confidence would be the biggest change. Everybody just seems to have a much stronger mindset.
Absolutely. I would agree. And I have to say, in the comments, you have already mentioned one of the two words that I was hoping wouldn't be mentioned. Specifically, immediately, I will leave it up to you to work out which one of the two words has been mentioned that shouldn't be. But anyway, this is very much for the panel that I will interrupt with that particular klaxon. So Helen, will it be you? Will you come out with the obvious two words that we don't want to mention immediately? What's your thoughts? What's different this season?
I think the not needing to rely on just one or two players up front. Maybe, as Sarah said, if there's been discussions that we don't know about, they've said, we need to spread the goals around the team, just trust each other more that you can score. If X player doesn't score, then maybe someone else will be in a better position to try and do it. So yeah, we can see where the goals have come from throughout the team, not just the front line. So yeah, just a better team cohesion, I think, this season as well. Been playing together longer, and the newer players have been bedded in well. They've obviously got the relationships where they trust each other as a team. So yeah, and just again, what Sarah said, just the confidence. I'd say coming back from the Euros, those players, they're used to winning, so that's probably instilled in the other players as well.
Absolutely, I think you can't argue with much of that at all, really. This is a very interesting point here, Charlie. Fewer injuries, which is why we've kept the same starting lineup. But ironically, when we finally have squad depth, I mean, we think back to the end of last season, some of the signings that we made, Diane Caldwell in, obviously, because we had the injuries that were happening, Millie Turner, Aoife Mannion. obviously getting injured as well. You know, our defensive lineup was rocked, absolutely rocked. It was on the ropes at times last season. What do you think has been the biggest change this season to last?
I've actually written down, one of the things I've written down as a comparison to last season. I put backline last season obliterated, which is what it was with Millie and Aoife being out, and then Diane came in and then she was injured, and Hayley and Katie were having to take up that mantle at certain times. I think Katie had to play in the back line against West Ham, their horrible ground, and Hayley did it at Old Trafford. I kind of agree a little bit with what Sarah was saying, which kind of matches with something Rachel Williams said in her post-match interview against Brighton that we just played. And one of the first things she said was, I know what my job is. I know what my job is within this squad, and it's to come off the bench and make things happen. And that's a big thing for me is the amount we're getting back from the players who are coming on. Whereas I feel like last year, if it wasn't working, there was very little on the bench available to change things. Whereas we're actually getting a lot of goals and a lot of creativity from those players coming in. There's an option. It doesn't feel like, well, if it's not working, if Tooney and Russo and Galton aren't scoring, there's no other option. It feels like there's loads of options now, which is really positive. And you can see how many options there are when players like Adriana Leon, who's a main player for Canada, isn't getting a kick and things like that. And in some ways, it might not be great for her, but it's a good sign for us that we're kind of in that position. So I think players knowing their roles, I think having options off the bench that are coming in and changing games that we didn't have before. And I don't think it can be stressed enough the importance of having that stable back line, having that 5 players that are there pretty much every week. I think Honor maybe missed 1 week, 1 or 2 games. Was that this year? I can't remember. Did she get concussion or something? Something wasn't there early in the season, but we coped with that in the league games. But I think that's been massive for us having that stable back 5.
I feel like that was the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I think it was.
Wasn't it? Because that was when we had the Thor experiment at right back.
Did we have no Honor? Did we have no Honor for the Chelsea game? I think that's what it was, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So we have to scratch our memories because it feels so long ago. And it was. That's why. Very long ago. So let's start at the front line, because the front line really is where the goals headline comes from. It's mad. It's absolutely crazy when you take a look at what we've done. I took a look at what the goals scored were for all the other teams. So last season, Chelsea scored 62. They're currently on 42. They need 20 goals to equal theirs. Arsenal scored 65. They're on 40. They're currently 25 goals. City scored 60. They're on 35. Now they need 25 goals. We scored 45 last season. Now we're on 46. And there's still games to go. And you feel like there's still a lot of goals available in this team. So other teams, Spurs currently 4 less. They're not doing too bad, all these other teams actually that lower down, which is quite interesting. West Ham are only 6 off. Brighton only 6 off. Reading only 2 off. Villa absolutely nailed what they did last season. They scored 13 goals last season. They've scored 32 this. So, you know, I don't always give Carla Ward credit, but fair play there. Some would argue that's the Kirsty Hampton effect, but there we go. Everton with 19 scored 1 more than last season already, and Leicester are already on 9. So they've got 5 more to go. So everybody's doing all right, but we're really the only team in the top half that have pretty much hit where we've hit. Why is it? What is it that's happened? Look at our goal scorers. Russo and Galton with 8. Garcia with 6. Williams with 4. She wasn't even supposed to get game time, let alone goals. She's nailing it. Ella Toon, Ladd and Zelen with 3. May Letitier's got 2. She hasn't scored since she had that cracking debut. Paris with 2 as well. And even Adriana Leon, who is conspicuous by her absence, has got a goal as well. So these goals just being absolutely spread around. I think, was it 14 or 16 players? How important is that, Sarah? I mean, I know you said sharing out the goals is a good thing, but, you know, we don't have a Bunny Shaw. We don't have someone who's going out there just absolutely nailing the figures. But what do you think it is about this team that's been so good this season in their ability to put the ball in the back of the net?
I think, I mean, I agree with everything that's been said about the back line, and you can see the defenders getting forward, and somebody like Anna, obviously a very attacking player anyway, but it's really good to see our defenders getting so high up the pitch and not being afraid to do that, and to try and contribute those goals. So yeah, I think, and Hannah Blundell as well, she's been on great form recently. She's been contributing the goals as well. They just look really confident and unafraid to do that, and I think that's great to see.
All of the talk, hi Kaz, all the talk this season was about the Lionesses. Certainly at the end of last season, everything that happened, and I still maintain, if you're going to be the best team in Europe, what better to do than to have the best players from those teams? And we've certainly managed to do that. We had a nucleus of that European Championship winning side. Everybody, myself included, felt like this was going to be Leslie Russo's season to really break out. Now, she's certainly doing better than she's done in previous seasons. I don't think there's any argument from anybody on that fact. How do you feel about Leslie Russo's season so far? Do you feel like she has exceeded expectations, or do you think she is still got a way to go?
I think she's still got room for improvement. She's one improvement is she's not been injured yet, which is good. She seems to have, after that was a serious hamstring injury, I think she needed surgery on. She seems to have managed to prevent any further sort of problems with that. But it's weird because when you watch her, she's getting in the space to get the chances, but doesn't put all of them away. But of course, you could say the same about Sam Kerr, who misses so many chances, but still manages to score a hat load. And then, of course, the offsides, that she's often offside, but Russo's often offside, whether it's an actual offside or not. So I think maybe the contract situation has unsettled her. I don't know, but I think she could still be better. She's not been the breakout star that she was in the Euros, sort of thing. We always knew in that competition she'd come off the bench and do something, and she did. Whereas maybe starting for United every week, she's got a different role. I know her hold-up play is second to none, so she does have other aspects other than scoring goals. But yeah, probably expect her to put more chances away than she does at the moment.
It's very interesting. I don't think anybody really saw Leah Galton scoring the same number of goals as Leslie Russo so far this season. And certainly, Don's saying she hasn't been prolific, needs to be in the box more to get more goals, but at least when she's not scoring, she contributes. There are games where you want your star number 9 set up, so that's fair enough. Jennifer thinking maybe head's been turned a little bit there. Leslie got a long way to go yet to be the finished article, but if she stayed here 2 more years, I think we'd see the best of Leslie, which is an interesting take. Some bloke called Connor's gone, she's got potential. Potential is not guaranteed. It's a wise man that told you that. Kaz is bang on above, rather the goals spread out. And John's saying she's a worry, but thankfully as a team we've been scoring. So Charlie, what I would add to this is the assists, because it just shows where the goals are coming from, really. I know that you've got to have people there to put the ball away. But Ella and Anna both on 8 assists each. Katie Zellen with 7. Galton's got 3 assists. Ladd's got a couple of assists there. Thomas. And then Leslie, Hannah and Lucia have got an assist each as well, according to FOTMob. Don't have a go at me if this is wrong. May Letitia also with 1. What do you think about where our... it literally is, isn't it? It's the whole team. We say we're talking about the attack, but it is the whole team that is getting involved here, whether it be scoring goals, whether it be assisting the goals, whether it be assisting the assisters. Ultimately, the ball is just being played brilliantly, and Manchester United are a far superior outfit to the team that we were last season.
Yeah. What do you want me to talk about? Just do you have any? What the question?
I thought you had like 100 stats or something.
Oh, no, I
Talking
do.
about whether, because like Hayley Ladd, she's not weighed in with like a million goals. She was, I think, had a better goal scoring season last season. She's still getting some assists in. It's just the way that the team has been put together this year. I think John mentioned about our away form being better.
Yeah.
It's not just about the away form. It's about we're not dropping those goals. We're not conceding as many. We're scoring more. We're putting the game out of sight. And all of these things that have added up are the reason why we're top of the table, even with Chelsea doing what they're doing.
Yeah, there's a few interesting things for me. I think been a couple of mentions of Hannah Blundell, who I think last year got loads of assists and hasn't necessarily this year, but I think where she's improved massively is her defensive play. I think she's not often beaten. I think she's been incredible as a defensive player. She's massively improved on previous years, which obviously adds to sort of not conceding as many. What I think is something crucial, which to focus on, is I think probably if you look at Ella Toom, for example, who probably hasn't scored as many as she would have liked or we would have expected. I think last time she scored was for Arsenal, and I think it was not for Arsenal, was against Arsenal, crikey, in November. And I think maybe in seasons gone past, that would have been hugely detrimental to us being able to win games. But actually, we've not even really had to talk about that. I think we're 10 goals better off now than we were last season, and that's Garcia and Rachel Williams. That's the difference they've made when they come in. I think when you look at the number of assists from Toon, from Zeller, and I think Galton's got 3 or 4, there's been a lot of talk about a lack of creativity in midfield and players not creating chances. Well, that looks to me like our midfield are creating a lot of chances, because Tooney's on 8, Zellam's on 7. So they're doing a lot of work as well. I also noticed what Connor mentioned earlier about pressing and winning the ball back, which again wasn't something we were particularly known for, which I think is a real difference this year. I don't think any team has won the ball in the opposition's half more times than we have this season. So I think we press really well. It's not just a case of, one player will go and press someone and it didn't work. And then one player will go and press someone. When you watch them, there's clear triggers. There's clear patterns of play that lead to that happening, and they win the ball back so high up the pitch. But also, I also think we play against the press a lot better than we did. And I think if you look at the Chelsea game at Kings Meadow, they didn't want to press us, and that's because they're not stupid. Emma Hayes isn't stupid. We've clearly worked on all of those things, where we're not just a counter-attacking team, which is maybe what we used to have been when Casey was there, who I did love, by the way, but that's what we were. We've got so many more facets to our game now. So I think there's loads of things. I think you can't just pick out one thing that's changed. I think it's a multitude of things. It's the players we brought in. It's the ability to play against teams that are setting up in a myriad of ways. If it's not working, you've got players that can come off the bench and make things happen. Rachel Williams against Reading, Garcia when she came on at Old Trafford. And can you imagine that as well now? So you're playing United, you've ran your legs off for 60 minutes and it's 0-0, and then 3 subs are about to come on, and one of them's Lucia Garcia, who's going to run at you. Rachel Williams are going to bulldoze you over. Like, I think that's amazing that these players are just going to come on. And again, I don't think we had that. I don't think we had that previously either. I hope that answers the question.
It does. I feel this question needs to be directed at you, though, Charlie, as the founding member of the Rachel Williams fan club. What would your answer be here?
What if Rachel Williams had been our starting striker? I think she'd have scored
the same amount of minutes than Leslie Ollier.
Yes, I think she will have scored as many goals as those two had, if not slightly more. I mean, we never know because it's not happened, but I think when you watch them, she offers us something that we don't get from anyone else. And it's the incredible work rate and the desire to chase everything. So against Brighton a couple of times, not counting her goal, but she doesn't give up on anything, and she plays to the whistle. I think there was one time in the Brighton game where we were obviously the wrong end of the pitch in the second half, where Leslie got taken out and everyone stopped except her. Everyone stopped except her. She just kept going and got a really good shot away because the whistle wasn't blown. She got a really good shot away that then led to a corner. So, yeah, I think if she plays every minute, she scores as many goals. I still don't think she's your starting striker if you qualify for the Champions League. As much as I love her, she's still not that player. But in this team, I think any striker could come in and score 10 goals. With the amount of chances that we create and the amount of creative players that we have in Galton, in Garcia, in Zellum, in Toon, I think I think it's also probably right. Some people saying Russo hasn't scored as many goals as we would have liked. I think that's probably true. She probably hasn't. There's been times where you maybe wanted her to take the game by the scruff of the neck, and she hasn't at times. But again, it hasn't been a massive issue because we've got lots of players that can do that. But I think if we're talking about could any other player come in as a striker and score 8 goals with this team at this point, then yes, loads. I do wonder how many goals Bunny Shaw might have scored. How many goals might Bunny Shaw have scored potentially?
About 7 maybe.
About 7, yeah.
Roughly, give or take a 10. So, Sarah, your thoughts on this one? Because Charlie says if Rachel Williams started, she'd get as many, if not more, goals as Leslie and Leah have got. But she then also goes on to describe a hard-working attacker. Do you think that Rachel Williams is better used coming on as that sub that's coming on for the last 20, 30 minutes against an already tired defence, where that sort of tactic is more likely to be successful rather than against a fresh defence from minute 1?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's obviously been working. You know, she has this super sub tag now. I do agree that she could easily have scored as many goals if she was a regular starter. But yeah, I love how old school she is, and just everything she said about, you know, she knows her place in the team. She's so passionate and hardworking, regardless. Like you know, there's no sign of her throwing a hissy fit because she's not starting or whatever. She clearly loves being part of that team, and she's happy to play whatever role is asked of her. And, you know, I think her teammates are getting the best out of her as well. But yeah, I think the situation as it stands with her coming off the bench is obviously working well. So I wouldn't see any reason to change that.
Interesting fact there from Connor. Nearly half of Russo's goals came in one game against Leicester. Most of our attackers, given the minutes, would score similar with the amount of chances we create. Interesting. Very interesting. So last season, Helen, we had a forward line that would consist generally of Leah Galton, Leslie Russo, Martha Thomas, Fuso, and Kirsty Hansen. They were pretty much the players that we were choosing from. How much of an improvement do you think it's been this season? Because if we're brutally honest and we take it, you know, as is, Galton and Russo are exactly the same. We had them last season. But we can't really say the difference in the front line is down to that right-sided attacker, can we? Because we've said, as on this channel many times, that's the area that's not really been nailed down. Martha Thomas still hangs about. Kirsty Hansen's gone to Villa and is having an absolute flyer. Fuso's gone abroad and is doing quite well out there as well. We've brought in Garcia, Paris. Obviously, Williams is coming, which has given us a bit more depth for Russo. But with all of these players that we brought in, what would you say has been the difference? Because we said there was going to be a bit of fluidity when we looked at that team, and there has been. Garcia pops out to the left, goes to the right every now and again. We do have that fluidity to change the team about, but it's not a massively different front line apart from the options, is it?
I think maybe they're more ruthless strikers, or goal scorers, wingers, whatever you want to call them. I think last season, maybe if we'd scored 2, we'd try and see the game out 2-0. Whereas I think this season the whole team is always looking for more. You know, the demolition of Liverpool, for example, you know, it was pretty obvious from the first minute we were going to win, and it was just how many, and we could have scored a lot more than 6. So I think maybe the mindset of these players is just you know, we want to score more. We're not happy with just getting 1 or even 1 each. We want, you know, more. And I think the pain of losing out on goal difference last season for 3rd has probably had an effect. So we know that things can be decided by goal difference. So there's no resting on a 2-0 lead if you can go and really go for the jugular and thrash teams.
Charlie, where would you go with that? Do you think that if we'd have kept Kirsty Hansen and Fuso and we had that same sort of front five to choose from, that we'd be seeing the same as we're seeing currently? Or do you think the changes that we've had with the likes of Garcia and Paris, etc., has made a difference?
I think it's made a difference. I think Kirsty Hansen's really interesting, isn't she? Because she's doing so well for us, but it will be interesting to see what happens with her, because I think she's not reaching the end of her contract at United. She's got another year or two, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Something I do think that we're doing differently this year that's probably better suited to the likes of Lucia Garcia, Nikita Paris than it is to Kirsty Hansen, is that our wide forwards are drifting inside more. Whereas Kirsty Hansen, when she's been at United, has been very much hugging the touchline, playing extremely wide. And we've noticed that with Galton as well. That used to be her role, was stay really wide, pass the ball to Leah and she'll run. Whereas actually she's picking up quite a lot of goals, Leah, because she's drifting inside and meeting the ball at the back post or the near post, whereas historically she perhaps wouldn't be doing that. And I also think that's something Garcia does as well, and Nikita Paris, is it's not just your wide players play wide all the time, which they do at times. It's ability to cut in and drift inside and take up positions and opportunities elsewhere. So again, I think Mark talked last year about wanting forward players who can play more than one way, who can be the wide players that can put a cross in, but also cut inside and also take up the number 9 role and play across that front three. And I do think that's something we've noticed when you're at the games. There's Galton's not just on the left all the time. I know when we pick our teams, we go Galton on the left, but she's not there the whole time in a game. And Russo is not playing as the number 9 the entire time during a game. They're constantly moving over and swapping around. And I think that's a key difference with regards to what we're doing. Don't know.
Fair points. Well, mate. So we've checked, make sure. Oh, yeah, the M word has been mentioned, yes, but only M so far. So I don't think I heard the full 2 words there. That would be interesting. Almost Claxon, Helen. Absolutely. I feel like these 3 people have worked out what the band words are.
I've no
idea. I love this. No. My hope is that you will be the one that falls into the trap, Charlie, which I'm really looking forward to. I've got my noise all sorted and everything. We've looked at the attack. Let's take dare I go down here, but let's take a look into the midfield, because Charlie said we're defending higher up the pitch, got a higher line, we're pressing more higher up the pitch. Again, you look at the choices that we had last season. Ella Toon, still here. Haley Ladd, still here. Katie Zellum, still here. Wilda Risa, still here. So those 4 very much the foundations. We had Jackie Groden, we had Jade Moore, and we had Lucy Staniforth were the 3 that came to mind. Obviously, Lucy's gone now. Jade's on loan, and Jackie has gone off to PSG. And whilst we're there looking at those people, we've then brought in the likes of Lisa Nielsen. We brought in Estelle Cascarino, players who haven't yet really had the chance to really show what they can do. But the main 4 of Toon, Ladd, Zellum and VBR seem to have worked quite well. Do you think it was a good idea, Sarah, to get rid of the people that we did get rid of? And again, do you think we've upgraded in that midfield, even if we are sticking with a sort of a Toon, Ladd, Zellum with VBR cameo appearance?
Yeah, I mean, I think we spoke about Staniforth's departure before, and that, you know, it was probably the right move for her to make at this stage. And Jade Moore going on loan as well. I mean, it's tricky, obviously, with Lisa Nelson being injured. I did think she, you know, you could see the potential in the minutes that she did play. But it's kind of hard to judge that. I do think it'll be interesting when Grace Clinton comes back, given the form that she's been having for Bristol City. Just, you know, that I've seen people question during the week whether she would be ready for that kind of regular starting place. And I mean, it's hard to say, but I think she definitely has the potential to do that. So yeah, for me, it'll be interesting when we get her back to see how that sort of shakes things up in midfield.
Fair enough. Helen, where would you go with that particular conversation point? How do you feel the midfield shapes up this year to last?
Me, sorry. I think, well, we've got more options, I think, with Lisa, although she's injured now, of course, and Vilda not playing, which is a bugbear for most people. But I suppose we're not putting players in positions that they don't normally play in, like we were last time with the injuries and everything. So I think, yeah, just better additions to the squad, because we could afford to send the players on loan that we have done. And then next season, if some contracts are up, we can welcome players back and improve the team even more, I think.
TJ has nailed it as well, to be fair. Charlie, I'm going to throw this question at you. Sorry. But we've got here, it took a team a while to get over Jackie going, but we seem to be coping well without her now. Even Jennifer here has gone, Jackie should not have been sold. I don't mind kicking off this particular question with the fact that I think selling Jackie Gronin was probably one of the cleverest things that we have done, because we got a bit of money. And look at the fact, just look at the goals we're getting from midfield. Ella Toon scored more. We're just doing better all round in that midfield area, I believe. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people who are about to come racing into the comments, and I'm looking forward to putting them all up on the screen in just a moment. Feel free, my skin is thick. But where do you stand on this whole situation? Because I would maintain that any team that is sitting pretty at the top of the WSL and in the FA Cup semi-final probably isn't missing the players that it got rid of. But I don't know, I could be wrong. What do you think?
I don't think we're missing her. I agree that she's a brilliant footballer. You don't get that many caps for the Netherlands if you're not, and PSG don't come sniffing around if you're not. But all you can look at is the fact, or not you, that makes it sound like I'm telling everyone what they should be looking at. All I'm looking at is we're conceding less goals and we're scoring more goals than we've ever scored before. And the current midfielders that we've got that predominantly play are scoring and or assisting fairly regularly between them. So no, I wouldn't say we miss her. I think it's always disappointing when you let a potentially world-class player go, but it hasn't stopped us. We haven't collapsed and given up without her. If her going meant that Man United starting 11 capitulated, that would have been a massive concern, because what does that say about everyone else? You can't just be relying on one player, and quite clearly we're not. Because what we've talked about a lot tonight is them as a collective, is how good they are as a team. And I think it says a lot about how they're performing that we aren't missing her perhaps as people would have expected us to do. Talking about the midfield generally really quickly, because everyone was talking about the midfield and the options we've got. I think the options we've got are really good. Lisa, if she wasn't injured, because she was playing really well in that first game, and Cascarino. I feel like if we Brighton in just over a week's time, he could pick a completely different midfield three. So he could absolutely blow the whole thing out of the water and just pop Cascarino in with VBR and whoever else, and I wouldn't bat an eyelid, because the midfield options we've got are brilliant. They're really, really good. I think if we're losing games regularly and it's down to the midfield, strong cat game, I think I would understand it a little bit more. I don't know. But yeah, I think if we get into the Champions League, we're going to have to upgrade in all sorts of areas, just because that's how it works if you want to be competitive. But for where we are right now, which is wanting to compete at the top of the league and get Champions League football, and potentially everything crossed being an FA Cup final, how good will that be? I think everyone must be doing their job well enough. It just might not be the players we were expecting it to be. Well, let's just support whoever's got the red shirt on.
100%. And listen, don't get me wrong, I liked Jackie Gronin. I thought she was a lovely person. You know, she was no problems with her. I just don't get the uproar. A little bits like that where we say we're missing a player when you're top of the table. Like you say, if we'd have dropped down or weren't doing better, I'd get it. But I'm afraid I don't. And then again, I'm old and a little bit dim, so maybe it's that. Sarah and Helen, anything you'd want to add on that?
No, I completely agree with that. I mean, it would be another story if, you know, we hadn't replaced her and we were lacking in that area. But I think our position in the table and our performances, our goal scoring kind of speaks for itself.
Would you agree with this, Helen? Sometimes we just seem to struggle to get the ball out of midfield into our forwards. Is that something that you've noticed in the games you've watched? I'm tense here. It's very Helen. Earth to Helen. I'm not sure what's happened here. It's not looking promising. I don't think she even knows we're here.
Yeah, a little
Frozen.
bit. I don't know if that would be down to individuals though, or. But,
I feel like there might be a bit of lagging. Let's just watch this because it'll be entertaining. Charlie, do you want to go answering this question whilst we try and bring Helen back to the land of the up-to-date internet?
Yeah, I mean, if we are, if people think we are, then there must be reason for that. But I suppose it's not always. Sometimes it's maybe because the midfield are being a bit slow, a bit lackluster, or not playing the pass quick enough. But sometimes a midfield's inability to release the ball can also be to do with what's happening in front of them as well. Because if scoring goals was solely down to the midfield playing a pass and nothing to do with what anyone else was doing, game would be really easy. So yes, there might be times when that's the case. I agree with what John's put there. Sometimes it feels like we're a bit slow in our build-up when we don't need to be. I agree with that. Sometimes we hold on to it too long, but I wouldn't say that's just in midfield. I would say that's across the park. But we've got to nitpick, haven't we? We've got to be nitpicky. If we want to be winning things, you're looking at the fine margins. Do you know what? Pop Jennifer's thing back up there. I feel like I want to talk to Jennifer. Yeah, that one. It's really interesting because I've mentioned this to you guys before. I don't know if I've definitely mentioned it to you, Barry, and I've talked to people at the football. My brother's an Arsenal fan. Boo. And I've sometimes said to him, I feel like our midfield's a little bit small. I feel like, you know, like Chelsea have got Ingle and Cuthbert who are going to smash people, and Frida Manon's a giant. And then when we played Arsenal at the Emirates, the women, my brother was obviously with the home fans. Boo. After the game, the first thing he said to me was, your big lads in the middle. I thought he was trying to be a pun. He went, your big lads in the middle were kicking the hell out of us. They were battering us. And it's really interesting, the different things that people see, depending on what they're looking at or what they're noticing. Because all he said to me was, your two in the middle, which I assume is Elam and Ladd, were just kicking 10 shades out of their midfielders. So an opposition fan thinks that our two midfielders are battering around. So they're horrible. They were niggly. They were kicking at ankles. There were knees in the backs of legs and things like that happening. So I just find it's interesting, isn't it? That we're maybe worried that our midfield is a bit light, and other people are looking at it from opposition and going, they were horrible. They were battering us. They were pressing us, and it was unpleasant. Like I don't know. Just an interesting point. I think I like things like that because then you can talk about different things that people see. So good question from Jennifer.
It's a beautiful thing, football. It will absolutely be seen in a multitude of different ways. What wasn't seen in a multitude of different ways was what just happened here on All for United. I'm working on the theory that we've seen the catwalk past now, so Helen is back in the land of us. But this is the fallout from that. Kaz, no sympathy whatsoever. She's just laughing. Connor has likened you to a delay with the Mars rover, which was a little bit harsh. John Commode has begun a not joke, which I've got to be honest doesn't sound very funny. There's questioning whether you're on Virgin Wi-Fi internet because we know that's had a few problems. Helen, are you still with us?
Yes, I think so. I'm back.
Yeah. Did you have anything you wanted to add there on that midfield question that you were saying before you were so rudely interrupted by internet?
Oh, can I remember what I was going to say? Are we better off than last season, wasn't it? I think, as you've probably all said, that with the stats and the league position and the goals speaks for itself. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to welcome Graham Falk to the podcast. Not literally, he's not on here talking, but he's got ever so excited because I've had a shave. I'm not sure if he knows what one of those is, judging by the capital letters that he's gone for there. But lovely to have you. Very nice of you, Connor. Well done. I would never mention anything about your hair. And apparently I look like Matt Lucas. All I can say, baked potato saved my life. It really did. So it showed me the way. And anyone who saw that during lockdown will understand where we're going with that. Let's talk about the defence, shall we? Because we've done the front, we've done the middle, we might as well do the back. Last season, we were still looking at Blundell. Obviously, Turner got herself injured. Well, not injured, she had a bit of a medical crisis, shall we say, that she needed to get dealt with. Honor was still there. We still had Aoife. She ended up getting injured as well. We ended up with Zellum and Ladd at the back at times. We brought in Diane Caldwell, emergency cover. We've done all of these things. We've got all of these people in. But our defence is so much better than it was last year. Let's look at the stats that back that up. Arsenal are currently the only side out of the top four that have got a better goal difference now other than us. I mean, that's what I say. They've got better goal difference, 10 from less games. That's exactly what they conceded last season. Chelsea have conceded 14, which is 3 more than last season. City 16. Theirs was 22 last season, so they're a little bit better, but I feel they will going to go worse. But we're massively better. We've only conceded 9 this season, and we conceded 22 last season. Sarah, talk to me about this defence and the difference. Dare I say it, the difference that Maya Letitia has brought to this back line.
Yeah, that's exactly the name I was going to mention. I think her partnership with Millie Turner has been the difference for me. I mean, wasn't she, I think I'm correct in saying she was originally brought in as a right back, but we've seen her as a centre back this season. She's done extremely well. And yeah, it has meant that other players have been kept out of the starting lineup. But even with the likes of Aoife coming back from injury, and we're starting to see her get more minutes now, I think that's also, really good to have. She adds to that sort of competition. But yeah, I think definitely Millie and Maya in the centre have made a massive difference to that defence. Because Millie, since she came back as well, has just been phenomenal.
She has been phenomenal. Absolutely. Totally agree with that. Helen, would you agree with everything that Sarah's just said, or have you got a little tidbit that you'd like to give us yourself?
No lies detected. Maya's been outstanding. Probably my player of the season so far. I think it was during the commentary, at least on the BBC, of the Brighton game that. Sorry, was it Sky? I can't remember. Might have been Sky. They said that Brighton have conceded the most goals in the league now. And I was thinking, oh, that's because we nicked Maya. They don't have her anymore. So maybe it's a bit of a push to say one player's made all the difference, but I think she's made 60-70% of the difference in our defensive line.
Absolutely. And we've got Erin LT loves a slide tackle. She also loves a pass from distance, which is just perfect every single time. That ball to Leah Galton, they are just in sync with each other. Charlie, what's your thoughts on our defence this season?
I think a massive, monumental. Obviously, we've talked about the injuries already. I think the injuries were a nightmare last year. That's when our season started to collapse a little bit when the centre-backs were dropping like flies. We talked briefly about Hannah Blundell, who offers a lot going forwards, but I think she's cut out those errors that she used to make. I think she made errors a little bit too often last season, and I think she's massively improved with that regard. So her maturity in the game and her ability to read the game is really good. We've talked about Maya. Maya has 3 of my favourite things in a centre-back, which Nemanja Vidic also had. One was an incredible slide tackle that is as exciting as like a brilliant shot on goal. Like you said, Barry, the ability to pick out a pass. She's involved in so much of our build-up play. And again, you can see that when we're playing teams that it's the forward lines of opposition teams don't want her to have the ball. Apart from Chelsea, whenever Millie has the ball, or one of the back line, or Mary, the forwards from the opposition team just close Maya down. So they clearly know that she's our ball playing centre back, and she's absolutely rapid. Like, she's incredible. And that's really good, because what that allows, because she's on Honor's side, that allows Honor to play with such attacking threat along that right hand side, because Maya can cover every blade of grass. So if Honor's playing forwards and the ball's lost, Maya can get across to cover that right back position and win the ball. She's just incredible. But I think, Helen was right as well, having Millie back. I think it was a slow build for her. She sort of had to ease back into it, and that's been incredible. For me, it'll be really interesting to see what happens when we've got a fully fit, match fit Aoife Mannion, because she's going to be want to be playing every single week from next season. And the fact that Tunkara's not even getting a look in, who was getting to the point where she was starting to sort of sniff around captain in France, I think that says a lot as well. I think there can be no discussion that there's any favouritism when it comes to defenders or centre-backs. They are incredible. There is no reason at all to interfere with that or change that. They've just been amazing.
It is, it's really quite impressive. And again, there's been so much talk. In fact, Sarah brought it up earlier, not this Sarah Sproston in the chat, has put forward that with the bigger depth that we've got, that we would probably expect more rotation. But equally, you look at the statistics we're getting, the fact we've scored more goals than we scored last season, the fact we've conceded way less than we conceded last season, and the fact that therefore we're getting better assists from all across the park as well. This is the point I've been trying to make all season when I've been talking to Connor about this rotation, Lark. It's that why would you? Why would you change it? If you had yourself a tree in the back garden that grew you £1 million a day, would you swap it for an orange tree just so you could have something different? I don't think you would. But there we go. Last one on this, Mary Earps. Is it the confidence that she's got in the defence in front of her? Is it that they're making less mistakes? Or has Mary Earps just become the most incredible goalkeeper that we've ever noticed because she's got confidence and she's got managers that have got confidence? What is it about Mary Earps that's different this year? Because I would say there is a difference, a massive difference between Mary Earps of 2022 and 2023. What would you say, Helen? Helen's going to disappear. Oh, it was sound before. Now...
Technical issues today. Everyone knows I'm Mary Earps' biggest fan. I think, she's spoken about the fact Serena has given her so much confidence, choosing her as England's number one, seeing not only her ability but her potential. I think she's personally just worked on her game. She's got, the best coaches at England and United, and just the performances speak for themselves. I mean, of course, the settled defence in front of her has probably helped, but I think they say the same about her. They wouldn't be able to do what they do without knowing she's behind them, and that must give them confidence as well. So I think she's just tapped into that inner ability and also just worked really hard. And I think her distribution, like playing out from the back, has improved massively, as well as because she's always been a great shot stopper. But and you can hear her every game. She's always yawping. It picks up on the pitch side mics. So she seems to have just grown into herself in confidence. She doesn't mind yelling at players when they need to be yelled at, or just organising her back line. So yeah, I think she's just improved massively.
Well, Donald Dwack has just absolutely blown my mind there. Quack, quack, quack. The Duck would love to see Jade take Honor's spot and Honor play right wing against City to push Hemp to defend more. because City attack most at the first 20 minutes. Interesting shout, considering we've not yet seen Jade play, and she's returning from injury. So that'll be a very interesting shout. But there we go. Sarah, your thoughts on Mary Epps?
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think, you know, she's clearly got the talent, that's not in question, but the confidence in her defense, and then the confidence that her defense has in her and her coaches as well. And I've said it before, like, I think it's the mark of a good keeper is how much they shout at their defenders, and she's just, you know, she's great at that. I think winning this award as well will probably do even more for her confidence next season, considering, you know, how much the Euros did for her. I think we might see her get even better next season, if that's possible.
Imagine that. Charlie?
I love Mary Earps. I was in the programme for the Old Trafford game. I'm sure everyone doesn't know this already, so I'm letting you know now. And they asked me for that, our most important player so far this season, and I said her. And it stems from she massively improved last season, I feel like. I think we talked a lot last season about her commanding her box and winning crosses. And again, she's not conceded from a set piece again this season. I think it's important to notice. And then before the Euros, Ellie Roebuck had been injured and Hannah Hampton was like still a baby, really. And there was all this media chat about, the number one's the only place that's not nailed down. Should it be Mary, blah, blah, blah. And it really made me angry because Mary was being talked about as if she shouldn't start over a player that had been injured all year. And up until that, just before the Euros, still wasn't taking goal kicks. And someone who'd barely put on a shirt for England. So I think that was massive for her that she was number one and stayed number one during that tournament, because there was a lot of grappling from the media that she perhaps shouldn't be, which I found baffling. And even though players say they won't listen to what the media are saying and they phase it out, I'm sure they are aware of things that are happening, because that was the only position that people were having a go at. Should it be her? Should it be her? And there was no one else anywhere near. I didn't get it. And then there was 2 moments in the Euros where if she hadn't done what she'd done, England would have been out of that tournament. It was against Spain when it was would have made them 2-0 up. And she made an incredible save against Sweden when we were 2-1 up, which could have changed the game. And I think they were massive moments for her as well. And you could see the reaction from the players, the England players, how important those moments were. And she's come back to Man United and she believes, and it's not arrogantly, she believes she is the best. I'm the best. That's it. I'm the best. I'm in charge. This is my box. No one else is getting involved. She's only really been beaten by shots that have been nothing she can do about them. There's not been an easy goal scored past her. There's not been anything done where you think she should have done better there, like within regards to making the save. I know the one against Lewis wasn't ideal, but she couldn't have saved that if we ignore the mistake before. And she also, as well as believing she's the best, she wants to get better. That's what you hear her talking about. She wants to get better and she wants to be the best. And you look at the best athletes in any sport, and that's what they talk about. They don't talk about, I don't have anything to do to improve. She wants to improve, but she also believes in how good she is. And she's surrounded by, I think, probably coaching staff at United and an England setup who are managing her really well and feeding her that really positive information. And Helen's right. When you're at games, she is so she's such a massive part of giving instructions and marshalling that back line, because it is still as phenomenal as that back line is, it is still a young back line. They are young. I think Hannah Blundell's the oldest at 26. That's young for a defender. And it's high stakes. Every game is high stakes, and it's what she's producing, how she's communicating with them, how her and Zellum are communicating with each other all the time. I think they're both captains on that pitch, those two. She's just incredible. And for me, she's one where there's not been much chat about it, but I'm thinking all the time, we need to tie her down to a contract. We need to get her to sign a contract. She needs to be signing another contract, because I still think goalkeeping in the women's game, even though it is massively improving, it is still the biggest area of weakness for lots of teams. I still think it is. And we've got a phenomenal one. We've got the best one. So that's who we need to be trying to keep as well. Absolutely amazing from her. Deserved. She's doing her bit. She's doing her bit to get us in the Champions League.
Well, I think Kaz speaks for us all there with this particular message of spot on. So yeah, good, and I agree, TJ. It does seem to be a general weakness in the WSL. So my hope would be that we absolutely do tie down a little bit longer than just the year extension that we are likely to take the option for. We will just quickly go back to Donald Dwack because he's explained his reasoning for wanting Honor to go a bit higher. He says, if you notice, City depend on her when attacking. If she does, Honor will tend to defend and therefore attack less. As of now, we depend on Honor's attack and crosses into the box. It's a good reason. Mr. Revlon has popped in saying, yeah, but why would Hemp defend more because of that? I'm going to guess the same idea. If there's two people attacking, then you're going to have to defend a bit more, would be my guess. But either way, it could work well. Right. The United game isn't on any channels today, so it is literally just a case of keeping yourself informed on the TV. And so it's for that reason, I just very quickly, we're going to go around each international country, but one per bit. So I'll talk to Helen about one country, and then Sarah about another country, and then Charlie about another country. And if you people in the comments want to feed into it, feel free.
What about it? How much do I need to know about this country? Because you could say anything,
you'll find out.
You could say Estonia, and I don't know.
You see, now I was going to make you last, Charlie, because I've been going around in the same direction, but I feel now because you've got yourself involved, it feels like you want to go first. So we'll start with you, Charlie. And I'm literally just going to go in the order that it came up in the Man United app. But they were talking about who has been called up for their countries, who could be performing this season. This international break. The interesting one for me here was Canada. That's the very first one. I presume it's because they've done it in alphabetical order. But Canada's the first one. And they've called up Leon and Jade Riviere. Do you find that a little bit strange that these two players have been called up, considering that we haven't seen Leon pull a Manchester United shirt on in what feels like about 100 years? And Riviere's literally only just back from injury and, again, has not really had the chance to get many minutes in. Do you find that a little bit odd that they've been called up for a friendly against France?
Well... Oh, me? Sorry. Yeah, it's me, isn't it? No. But like, if you think about like Gareth Southgate, how many players does he pick that don't kick the ball? I think for international tournaments, you have to allow a little bit of leniency when it comes to managers picking players that they trust. And Adriana Leon, whether she's getting minutes for us or not, every time she's gone away with Canada, she's produced the goods. I've never watched so much Canadian international football in my life as I have this year. She always performs for them, always performs. And also Jade is an outstanding footballer who's followed the same pathway and the same system that a lot of Canada's best players have. So she's probably someone that they want to have a look at and get match fit, because she still might not play much for us this season. So they need to see if she's ready to play on the international stage. I think when you've got players that good who are performing that well with like Leon at international stage, I think you take them. I think at international level, I think it just happens. Like talk about Beth Mead. If she ends up being fit, if she's kicked a ball, if she's had 20 minutes, I'm fully expecting her to be on the plane to Australia. I think when players are just performing at an international stage, you take them regardless. So I'm not surprised. Bev Priestman's a brilliant manager. She knows what she's doing. And for me, thinking about Jade, if she's barely kicked a ball and Bev Priestman still thinks she should be on that plane to Australia, that is good news for us, is what I'm thinking. And it means she's going to get some game time before the new season starts. So I'm thrilled if she goes. There we go.
If I can add on to that, I think players like Leon, she's a senior Canadian international, isn't she? She's been around for a long time with the national team. I think it's important they have that squad cohesion, and with their fight against the federation. And Jade, obviously, she's not been part of United's squad that long. So if she can be integrated into the Canada team and have that support, I think it will do her good sort of going forward for her club. which is us, of course.
Fair points. All well made as ever. Sarah, I'm going to give you England because that was the next one. Because as I said, presumably are going in alphabetical order. Only 4 called up for our finalissima, which is just, I think, another language for pointless match put in to annoy us all from watching what we wanted to watch. Leslie Russo, Ella Toon, Mary Earps, Maya Letizia. So if we take these arguments that Charlie's just thrown out about quality players, should we not be feeling a little bit upset that we're not seeing people like Nikita Paris, Katie Zellum, Hannah Blundell being called up? Or do you think that the 4 that have been chosen are probably the right 4 for the country?
Yeah, I mean, especially, well, Katie Zellum as well. Just she, her form recently would have warranted a call up, I would say. And Hannah Blundell, I know a lot of people have been saying recently that, why is she being overlooked for England in general this year? I think she definitely would have deserved a place. And I would also say Millie Turner. Is it not about time that Millie Turner got a senior England debut, given the season that she's had? So I would put her name in there too.
Interesting.
She's better than Ruben Moy, I think.
Say again, Helen, sorry?
I think Millie Turner is better than Lotte Ruben Moy, in my opinion.
There we go. A shout has been made. Are they better?
Imagine the Millie Turner Maya Letizia partnership for England. So,
what do you think to what Connor's put here? Do you think they're better? That like people like Blundell, Zellum, Turner? Would you say they're better? I mean, Helen's already said Turner better than Ruben Moy.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that.
I think Serena also wants players that there's players that have been picked like now that are going to be picked for World Cup and aren't going to kick a ball. So she's also obviously she's thinking about how that's going to work as a squad, isn't it? So picking certain players that will just be happy to go along for the ride. I'm just dead biased. So I want any players that don't get many minutes for us, I want them to be picked so that they can be match fit and match sharp. And any players that play all the time for us, I don't want them to go because I don't want them to get injured and I want them to have a rest. So that's my attitude to international friendly breaks.
Interesting. Helen, what's your take on internationals?
I think there's too many of them. I mean, they've produced this finalissima out of nowhere. I think it might have happened in the men's game before, but they've suddenly decided this season, oh, by the way, we're doing this like when they did the Community Shield one year and that was it. They just seem to chop and change with the women's game. And like when the World Cup in 2019 had VAR for the first time in any football capacity, and we were like, what? Why are you messing around experimenting with the women's game? And it makes the league so stop-start when, I mean, maybe it's good if they want to prolong the season because there's so few games, then it can start in August and end in May, whereas it would be over in about 5 months otherwise. But yeah, it's hard to get and maintain your momentum in the league with all these international breaks. And I know it's important to have a few going up to a major tournament, but yeah, I'm not a great fan of how many there are.
I'm with you, really. Go on. Chaz has got something else to add.
I think it's mad, Helen, just off the back, because you're clearly into this tournament, it's like I am, that there are the women's game in this country is so underloaded. Like we talk about the men's being overloaded, like with games, the women's is underloaded, and yet we're in a position because there's so many international breaks. They're scrabbling around about where to put Champions League games so the domestic league games can still happen. That's insane. That tells me that there's too many international breaks. There's so few games in the domestic league, even if you make Champions League playoffs, knockouts as well, that they're still then struggling to fit them in. It's just far too many.
It's mad, yeah. I think that, I mean, because the FA runs the top league in England, I think that goes hand in hand. They want to prioritise maybe internationals perhaps over the league, and of course the success of the Euros, they're putting all the eggs in that basket. It's lionesses or busts kind of thing, it seems like.
Fair enough. And Helen, I'd like you to add on to this one now, because again, going in alphabetical order, France comes next. And as we know, from our little conversation about Canada, they will be playing in a meaningless friendly against Canada, where Estelle Cascarino. So it really does feel like the battle of the players that haven't played all that much for United this season, as Estelle Cascarino has been called up. She's had a couple of appearances. What's your thoughts on Cascarino being called up to France again amid very little action? Do you go along with what Charlie says about how it's good? It gets her a game, so therefore some minutes in the legs. She hasn't got one leg. Legs. She's all about hopping on the right leg. That'll do.
I think she's been in the France setup for quite a long time. I don't have a lot of knowledge about that, but I think she's a dependable player for them, sort of a senior international. So I don't think it was that surprising she was called up. And obviously there's a brand new coach there as well, so he's probably assessing her on the international stage as well. I know that he's brought back some of the old ones that were out in the cold with Corinne Diacre. So yeah, did you say Tunkara has been called up?
No, which is what TJ says. Cass gets the call up. Nothing for Tunkara.
Yeah, well, I think, again, I'm guessing a bit, but I don't think Tunkara's had that much international football at senior level. Maybe just because she's still quite young. But in terms of centre half, it's always going to be Wendy, isn't it? And someone else, and until she retires or takes herself out of the team permanently, I think Tunkara might just have to bide her time a bit.
Well,
from what little I've seen of her, she warrants a call up, I think. You
know what they say, Tunkara, whatever will be, will be. So there we go. Charlie, Vilda Risa has been called up for Norway despite repeated threats that if she did not leave Manchester United Football Club, she probably wouldn't find herself in the team.
Every time.
Do you smell that?
Yeah, what a load of rubbish. Like, why would you come out and say that? What's the coach called? Is it Ada Risa? I always want to say John Arne Risa, and I know that's not him. Although, is he Norwegian? He is Norwegian, isn't he? Because he was fuming.
Right country.
I find it incredible that in hindsight that the coach so openly came out and said that, and then picked her every single time. I mean, again, I'm glad for her. I'm glad for us that she's still getting picked. I think Vilda was gutted when I think she did an interview not long after that, Vilda, where she said that it really upset her because she's really happy at Man United and she likes being here, and now she might have to move. And the coach has gone in to pick her every single time. I also think it's probably warranted. I think we've probably not seen as much of Vilda as some of us would have hoped or expected. But when she has been able to perform, she's performed really well every single time. So again, that probably warrants a genuine call up. So yeah, really pleased for her and pleased for us. Just makes a mockery of what the coach said in the first instance. Seems bizarre.
Of course, Nelson and Thor probably would have been called up as well, but injuries have prevented that. So we're going to ask Sarah, and this is literally just how the alphabet has fallen, Sarah. It doesn't matter which way round it had gone, you'd have ended up with it, which is the Republic of Ireland. And Aoife Mannion has been called up once again. So she will be performing two friendlies, I believe. You've got, close your ears, TJ, the USA, and then you play them again. So 2 games against United States of America. First of all, how are you feeling about that? And second of all, Aoife being called up, just sort of like a little icing on the cake, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm slightly apprehensive, but they are friendlies. It will be a good opportunity to test ourselves against one of the world's best teams. I'm delighted that Aoife has been called up. I was really impressed by her in her debut against China, and she actually nearly scored. That was some crazy disallowed own goal for China, but Aoife desperately wanted to claim it. And, you could see the smile on her face when she was trying to argue for that one. What I find interesting is that there were 3 new call-ups in that game, and Aoife is the only one who's been called up for these games. So I think I would guess that she has a very bright future ahead of her for Ireland. And I would not be at all surprised to see her get a World Cup place in the summer if she continues the way she has done.
Can I just quickly ask, because obviously, do you think, because obviously Diane Caldwell and Louise Quinn have obviously been huge for Ireland for a long time, haven't they, and played a major role, but from the outside it looks like for Ireland to be more competitive, they needed to upgrade that what is an ageing centre-back pairing as well as much as they've done. So Aoife Manning, that was like a massive uptick for me. Like, she could be huge going forwards for Ireland.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Diane came on as a sub, I think, for Aoife in the China game. I mean, I think, what is Diane, about 35 now, so probably, coming to the end of her career. But yeah, there was a lot of, I've talked about it before, but there was a lot of backlash against the idea that, English-born players might only be declaring for Ireland because they haven't been picked for England. Although in Aoife's case, there's a genuine family pride there in her heritage. But I really do think, why wouldn't you want to strengthen as much as you can ahead of your first major tournament? So yeah, I think it's a great call up for us.
There we go. So good stuff. TJ, I'm going to ask you to put your prediction for those games potentially, and we'll see whether or not Sarah agrees with you on that one. Seeing as how we have a little bit of international rivalry going on here. Equally, Helen, Scotland, which I know has nothing to do with you whatsoever, really, other than the fact you might have been there a couple of times. But of course, we've got Kirsty Hanson and Martha Thomas, both called up. They're going to be playing, and this one has blown my mind ever so slightly, Australia. And of course, that game naturally is going to be played in, can we guess where? Do we know where that's being played? London. That well-known place in both Scotland or Australia. They've all decided, let's travel down to London where we can play that game. So that's going to be entertaining. And then they go back home to Hampton Park to play the mighty Costa Rica. But what's your thoughts? Kirsty Hanson, Martha Thomas, both called up. Again, I mean, Hanson obviously hasn't featured for us whatsoever due to the fact she's on loan. So it's very difficult for that choice to be made. Martha, occasionally, again, a bit part player. Thoughts on them getting called up?
Yeah, not surprised. They've been in the squad quite a lot for the last few internationals. I think Scotland, with the players they have, they should have made the World Cup. I think they've really underperformed as a team, and it might be, major tournaments might be over for some of the senior players, which would be a shame. I mean, Kim Little's already retired from the national team. Jen Beattie, getting on. Rachel Coursey. I think one of Gemma Fife, the goalkeeper, she might have retired. So, yeah, but happy for our players. Still counting Kirsty as our player, and hope she comes back. But yeah, I think I'd expect them to make most of the Scotland squad each time, barring injury. Yeah.
Right, there we go. Keeps Martha sweet. Kaz not happy. So I don't want to talk about it as it breaks her heart. But she did also say, London, like, what the hell? I'm with you. I mean, it makes no sense to me whatsoever. I don't get it. The Scottish fans surely will want the game to be in Scotland because are there going to be that many? Would there be that many English fans going, I know what I want to do this Friday night. Let's pop down to London and watch Scotland against Australia. I don't know. Unless they're thinking about Sam Kerr, maybe. All the Chelsea fans might turn out, for another sold-out Wembley Stadium with about 70,000 seats available. Because it's not really a sellout. They don't understand the meaning of the word sellout at Kings Meadow. But there we go. Last one, Wales. You can all weigh in on this one. It wouldn't be fair just to go for Charlie. So if you feel like it, feel free. And I say that because there's a lot of call-ups here. We've got Carrie Jones, Chloe Williams, Hayley Ladd, and Saf Middleton Patel all brought up for Wales. I think really where I wanted to go with this one is, again, we're all going to be pleased they've got called up. It's fabulous for them. Saf Middleton Patel was the big one for me. She's getting regularly called up. Do we see SMP being our backup goalie to Mary Earps next season? Could we be seeing saying goodbye to Sophie Bagley, who we all love more than she should ever know? Oh. Charlie, you can kick off on that.
I think that's a really interesting question. I would think
Oh,
probably,
that's one.
yeah, I would think probably yes. That is the forward planning. I think it's huge for her that is she basically Wales #1, or is playing for them quite a lot, isn't she? For the last couple of games, has she played them? Does anyone know? I feel like
She started one of the games, which was her first start, I think, in the last window. Yeah.
Like that's massive, isn't it? To be getting minutes in these sorts of games at her age, and I think she probably is the longer term prospect for us. But yeah, I don't. Someone said Bagley was injured last week. I think Saf was on the bench for us, wasn't she? But I think the step up from development squad football for women is greater than it is for men in quality. But she is one of the few players where if you look at her, I feel like she won't be out of place. She is head and shoulders above lots of other goalkeepers that are around similar age to her. She's much better. So it'd be nice to see her be integrated further into the squad and get more opportunities. It'd be nice to think the next year we could get a little bit further in the Conti Cup and see her get a bit of an outing. But like I said, playing for Wales and getting called up regularly for them and now getting some minutes in games, that can only be a good thing for us going forwards. And she's certainly someone I think we should be looking to tie down and keep her at the club a little bit longer, because I don't think we're going to keep Rambo. I think Rambo wants to be playing, doesn't she, regularly? So I can see her moving on. So we need to make sure we keep hold of Saf, I think.
Helen, same question. SMP over SB?
I think so. And I think for Sophie Bagley's sake, she went from Bristol City's #1 and was arguably their best player, although they went down, to United's perennial #2 and not even playing in the latter stages of the cup. So she can't even say she's the cup keeper. I think for maybe her own career, she needs to leave United, because no way she's ousting Mary, of course. I mean, it's hard to say because we haven't seen her play much, Sophie, but I always thought Emily Ramsey was a bit better than her. But if she's #1 at Everton, or has been until she got injured on England duty, again, pointless, internationals. Well, it was England training, wasn't it? She wasn't even playing. But yeah, I think, as Charlie said, Ramsey will probably leave because she doesn't want to be the second choice keeper anywhere. So if maybe purely because of her age, if Safia is going to be our #2, then I think that would be helpful for her and good for us as well. She'd be a great understudy to Mary, I think.
Absolutely. And I mean, we're talking about that. Obviously, at Leicester, we've got Carrie Jones, we mentioned there, and Chris Ratcliffe pointing out rightly, scored the winning goal against Reading in the 96th minute. What a moment that was for that young girl there, who, again, has done brilliantly when she has played for United as well. Sarah, your thoughts on Safia Middleton, but also on Leicester, by the way. Really nice to see Jess Sigsworth back on the pitch after a ridiculously long layout with injury there as well. So welcome back, Jess. But yes, Sarah, SMP for you or not?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, given her age as well, she has so many years ahead of her, especially for a goalkeeper, because they tend to go on a bit longer than outfield players. I don't think she should worry, and I don't think she needs to worry about ousting Mary at this point. You know, she can learn a lot from her, and I think she would be quite happy being United's #2. And yeah, that's how I can see it going.
Point. Nobody bothered to mention in the comments that there's also a really weird fixture going on where Sheffield United are going to play Jamaica. And I've looked into that, and you're absolutely right, Connor. I thought when that came out that was just an April Fool's Day gag, but apparently it's not. You can actually buy tickets for Jamaica women against Sheffield United women at the King Power Stadium in Leicester. I can't work out what's going on, guys. What is happening? Why are people not playing games? Like, why is it not Sheffield United? What's happening? It's very strange. What a weird world we're living in. But there we go. Listen, it's been an absolutely brilliant evening. Really, really enjoyed it. And we've discussed everything. We've discussed what is different between this season and last season, which is good this year. And we managed to get an hour and 20 minutes into a podcast, and we still haven't mentioned those two words. So congratulations, everyone. We managed to have a manager-free discussion for this night. So well done. Good job. Thanks again. What we've got coming up, let me just double check. Tomorrow on the men's channel, we will be reviewing the Brentford game, which is currently 0-0. And we will then be having a little look ahead to the weekend as well. There will be something, Connor's words, not mine, something on Friday. So we shall wait and see what delights he's cooking up for that here on WFC. So hopefully we shall have that. And then, of course, just keep your eyes on the socials. But apart from that, Charlie, thank you very much for your wisdom as ever. Cheers, Sarah. Thank you very much, Helen, for the same. I hope you all have a cracking evening, and we'll see you all again very, very, very soon.